Robyn Doolittle is a reporter on the investigative team at the Globe and Mail. Her recent bombshell report, The Power Gap, explores the people who have power and decision-making abilities at work and who does not. It started as an investigation into the wage gap, but became something much bigger. Collecting and analyzing data, the Globe investigation looked at municipal and provincial governments, crown corporations, and universities as a starting point to explore the broader workforce. What stuck out was the lack of women. Women are outnumbered, outranked, and out-earned by almost every measure in Canada.
HR is a big piece of this. I spent the last 2 years interviewing people in this sector and people who have worked here, lawyers who deal with it. And I'm not saying this is the case everywhere, but certainly what I've heard over and over again is HR is sometimes the worst place you can go if you're feeling discriminated against at work. They are ultimately there to serve the company, right? HR is a very gendered part of the workforce. It's mainly women. And HR, maybe it's a chicken or the egg thing, I don't know, but it happens to have less power, I guess, than other parts of the sector. Is that because it's women there? Or maybe. So ultimately, I think where you're in this situation is you can go to HR and things can become worse for you. And again, it's not the case necessarily everywhere, but I have seen cases where people, report an incident to HR. HR maybe does an internal review. They find against the employee. Now there's a meeting about the employee being a troublemaker, and things kind of go down from there. It's a huge problem, I think, and a big part of why things are not getting better. We have laws on the books that have been there for decades, going back sometimes 70 years, outlawing all this stuff. It's illegal to discriminate against a person based on their gender. But those laws are almost never enforced. They're very difficult to enforce. And why is that? Well, there's a couple things. The body that was set up to handle these cases, the human rights tribunals were set up to handle discrimination cases. If you're feeling discriminated at work based on your gender or race or based on disability, you can't go to a regular courtroom. You have to go to you don't have to, but it's the main area to go to a human rights tribunals system. And they're so dramatically underfunded that it takes 2 to 4 years just to get a hearing, which is a really long time to be suing your employer, right? And the damages are almost always very small, like something like $5,000 to $20,000. So you're going to put your life on hold, stick your hand up as a troublemaker for maybe 20 grand at the end, and they don't pay your legal fees if you win. So if you hire a lawyer, how much is that going to be out of your settlements? So it's really broken system on that front. And so after that, employers know how hard it is to enforce your rights. A lot of people end up signing settlement agreements that, the relationship is so broken and the company will cut them a check to say, okay, go on, move on with your life. Oh, and by the way, if you want this money, you have to sign this confidentiality clause or a non-disparagement clause. And what that does is prevent the employer from ever actually fixing anything. So it's kind of this, and also from everybody hearing about it. You can't even talk to your coworkers about what happened. So this really diminishes our understanding of how bad the situation is and really limits people's options.
How do you encourage business leaders to examine their own structures at work in order to change them?
Yeah, I think everybody knows what they have to do. They have to be really intentional about promoting and giving power to equity-seeking groups, right? There's a theme, I've been looking at lots of different sectors, but the theme that kind of keeps coming up over and over again is this idea of it is human nature to form bonds and relationships with people who are like you, that you are going to gravitate to someone who shares your interest, your life experience. It's going to be easier to talk to them. You're going to have more in common. It's just the relationship's going to go a lot quicker. And the problem, of course, is that the people who hold power, where it's most advantageous to have a relationship with them, are then maybe not even consciously, but forming relationships with the people in the lower levels who are like them. And this is where you get this cycle of often, white men and sometimes white women that just keep kind of rising, right? And it takes real intention to break that cycle. You have to be very, okay, I might like intern John better, but why do I like intern John better? Is intern John better because he is better, or is because he reminds me of a young me? And am I, really being intentional and giving intern Jenny the same experience, right? So this is kind of where I think a big part of the problem is. I think when you're talking about business leaders, people know what needs to happen. They just haven't been necessarily forced to do it. And I think what's interesting right now is you are seeing consumers demanding that companies really are paying attention to diversity, inclusion, and equity. And that's forcing companies to take it seriously. And then companies are forcing the next layer. For example, law firms, as I've been doing reporting on law firms, I kept hearing that their clients, these big companies, are demanding that when they're presenting a team of lawyers that are going to represent them on a deal, that team is diverse, that it reflects the population. And I think that this is where you're really seeing it is public pressure. But yeah, so that's leaders just need to do it. It's you can set a goal and a target and meet that target. You set specific. I guess maybe that's one thing I can say is, in business, you set targets and goals for everything, because if you don't set a target and a goal, you're not going to hit it. You need to do the same thing for equity, right? You need to set concrete goals and then, hold yourself accountable for why you didn't hit them or why you hit them. So that's a big part of it.